Morning.
Morning, Dale.
Dale. Michelle. There he is.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey, Michelle, I don't know if you got my note. Can you enable share screen in case Dusty or I might want to share a screen with some information?
I did. So is it just the agenda packet you want up, or do you just all want to be able to share your screens at different times?
Different.
Go ahead, Dusty. What was yours?
Well, different times. We're going to be going through budgets and looking at some of the spreadsheets that we're going to have. We've got a few other items that we want to be able to review and present beyond the agenda.
Yeah, obviously, normally I don't do that, so I don't have a problem doing that. Just fair warning. You know what can happen if that occurs. So
Everybody shut down and come right back.
Yep.
Yeah.
The link was posted ahead of time publicly, so there's always that chance.
Yeah, I don't know if you can shut it off partway through or not. I've not tried that. I guess we'd have to.
You can.
Actually,
you just shut down.
Okay.
Now, you might want, Michelle, is that if you had the agenda up on the board, but then when we ask, you give individual sharing to one person instead of the whole group. Can you do that?
I can try. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've allowed that. Usually what we do, if there's one other person that needs to share, we just make them a co-host
Oh, I see.
rather than enabling sharing for everyone. Because I don't think it'll let me selectively allow people to share.
All right.
Unless it's changed since eons ago when we stopped sharing. But I can enable it right now.
Well, hopefully the Kiwanis Regional Trail Authority doesn't attract too many crazies. So.
We got
Thought
Jenny.
that about the planning commission too, but
Yeah.
Got some persistent people, apparently.
So I forgot to update Mr. Frank Nago of the meeting, and so I got him this morning, but he was already over here at City Chambers, so he's on his way back to the hospital. He said he might be a little late to the meeting. That was my fault.
I didn't think about that.
That was my fault. I did not hit that. And another thing I didn't do is to get the press on, notified, but it was a public notice. So if they picked it up, I probably should have nudged them to be a part of this.
Well, maybe we can email them our minutes when
It's over.
it's over. Yeah. And then, provide our contact information if they want to call us for comment or something.
Dusty, you want to try sharing your screen and make sure that works?
Yeah, me or Dusty.
Either one.
Yeah, I'm still disabled.
Dusty, can you hear me?
I can.
It's
Yes.
disabled for me too.
Would it make sense? I know it's last minute, but it would make sense to have Bob Ford. Did we contact him?
Yeah, I did tell him when it was, but I can shoot him a
Okay.
quick email.
All right.
I'll shoot him a quick email.
Okay, try it now.
Yep, I did it.
Okay.
Well, Dan, I've got all those real nice copies of the oh geez.
The article's all signed and ready. Yeah.
They're all signed, they're ready to go. And I think
Man.
what I'll do is I'll within the next few days, I'll just drop them off at everybody's office. Give me something to do in an afternoon.
How you
Tell you
feeling,
what,
Matt?
I will tell you something. I went out, started at Ben Oak yesterday for a walk. I've never seen so many people on the trail as I saw yesterday.
Yeah, that's one thing about this COVID that, we definitely need more outdoor recreation opportunities.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll last, hopefully. So just for the group's information, Sarah Gilmore is our Parks and Rec Director. I asked her to attend if she could. So she just logged in.
So not to be outdone, I've invited our Director of Parks and Engineering Services, Matt Tomaszewski, on Zoom meeting today as well.
Well, we don't have a Parks and Recs director. I guess that would be me.
You're your own guest.
Yeah, that's right.
Put another hat off the shelf there, Jim.
Yeah,
So,
that's why they pay me so much.
All right. I don't know what I just pushed there, but that wasn't what I wanted. I guess we can get this party started. Everybody is here.
yeah, I guess we need an unofficial chairperson to, or can we just all collectively agree to call the meeting to order?
Call the meeting to order, and then we do have a quorum. We have everybody here that's active member and all the municipalities represented. But it's really like roll call. Robin, do you want to do the formality?
Yep, I sure do. Member Steele,
Here.
member Elliott,
Here.
member Kane,
Here.
member Swallow,
Here.
member Witt,
Yes, I'm here.
all
Excellent.
members present.
Dan sent you out the agenda, or we all send agendas at different times. This is the final copy of it. So everybody's had a chance to review that. We'll do a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Or,
That was Dan and Jim,
right.
Greg, Dan and Greg.
Right.
Okay, then we'll do roll call.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
member Kane,
Yes.
member Swallow,
Yes.
member Witt,
Yes.
member Steele.
Yes.
Agenda approved by unanimous vote.
And then we have public comment here, but I don't know if we have anybody from the public that wants to make comment or not.
There's Sarah and Matt. Anybody else? Somebody connecting, and Eric. I'm not sure who that is.
Come over.
All right.
All right, hearing none, I guess we'll move on to new business. Now we need to make some decisions on chairperson, vice chair, and treasurer. So I'll open that up for discussion.
I move for chairperson Dusty Steele.
Support.
There's been a motion and support for Mr. Steele. I will be very proud and humbled to do that service for us. So I
Dusty,
appreciate it.
you're the official Adrian Kiwanis representative?
I am.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And I do, when we get to the alternates, we do have board action that happened at the board level for the alternate as well. All right. And then we also have, let's see here, vice chairperson. Make a motion for Jim Kane.
Or,
Robin, did you get those?
You made the motion. Who made the second? There were two of them.
I think it was
Oh, Witt made the second.
Okay. Yeah, if you could say your name when you make the motion, that would be great.
Sorry, guys. We had Mr. Maxwell walking in. Now, he's joining the meeting. Bear with me one second. All right. So there's been a motion and support for vice chair. Is that where we're at?
correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right, roll call.
Dusty,
Yes.
we did not do a roll call for chairperson.
Oh, we didn't. Sorry. Let's go back.
if we're gonna do them all at once, we need a treasurer candidate.
Yeah, let's just do them all at once, if that's
Okay.
okay. And I would move for Greg Elliott for treasurer, since they got all the money.
I support that.
Just didn't wanna do it.
There we go. All right. So now now there's been motion accepted for all three positions. Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Okay, so since each officer was elected, a motion was made for each one, how do you want me to read that? I mean, because each one, someone made a different motion. So,
I think it's fair to,
Should vote separately.
yeah.
All right.
So I have a motion for Jim Kane as chairperson. That
No.
motion was made,
that was Dusty.
Dusty,
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have a motion by Jim Kane and a support by Dan Swallow to appoint Dusty Steele as chairperson. Member Kane,
yes.
member Swallow,
Yes,
member Witt,
Yes,
member Steele,
Yes.
member Elliott.
Yes.
The motion to appoint Dusty Steele as chairperson is approved by unanimous vote. And then I have a motion by Dusty Steele and seconded by member Witt to appoint Jim Kane as vice chair. Correct?
Correct.
Yes.
right.
Member Swallow,
yes,
member Witt,
Yes,
member Steele,
Yes.
member Elliott,
Yes.
member Kane.
Maybe. No, yes.
The motion to appoint Jim Kane as vice chair is approved by unanimous vote. There you go, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, I have a motion by member Kane and supported by member Steele to appoint Greg Elliott as the treasurer, since Adrian has all the money. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to throw that in there. Member Witt,
yes,
member Steele,
Yes.
member Elliott,
I guess.
member Kane,
Yes.
member Swallow.
yes.
Motion to appoint member Elliott as treasurer is approved by unanimous vote.
All right, it's official, Dusty.
I understand. I
Charge.
understand.
So-
Get my thing works. All right, the next thing on the agenda is really to review the maintenance and cost of the Kiwanis Trail. One of the things that I have, we had in the early going, and Matt, you are sort of make sure I have this shared appropriately, and maybe you can comment on this document, and I have a couple others that really gave us a feel for maybe it's this one we were projecting out of various costs that were associated with maintaining the trail. We were getting a feeling that was around 82 to 84,000 a year. And when we get to budget, we sort of use that as an earmark to try to give us a feel for where we're at. As you can see, as we the townships and city of Tecumseh at 12.5 and the city of Adrian at 50,000. So
Matt, are you able to comment on that? What's been our experience annually with the length of trail that we have currently?
Sure. So we generally budget about 50,000 every year. That was really all we could afford to do. If we want this to be what it can be, I think this is the number that it's going to take each year. Every year is going to be different, obviously. Actually, this year alone, we have a couple of other major improvements planned as far as Gaiety Bridge. That bridge should be getting repaired at some point this year, so we have allotted $65,000. So like I said, every year is going to be different. There's going to be additional expenses here and there, but I think this is a pretty safe number here.
So let's talk about that for a second, because there's ongoing maintenance of keeping up the asphalt and making sure the foliage and everything is cut back, and we're out there raising township. We don't want to have holes out there. We don't want to have holes in Adrian Township. So we need to develop, I guess, an ongoing maintenance that we can all participate together in. Trying to at least do that base maintenance. When you guys have like a $65,000 expenditure for a bridge that's in Adrian, how is the authority to deal with that individual type of capital expenditure? I know that you on the city budgets are asking for that in the capital budgets, and I know that the PA state helps support some of that. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit about that, Greg or Matt.
I'll let Matt go.
We have to budget each year well in advance. So actually, we just submitted our capital cost in November for our next fiscal year. So we had planned to do maintenance on that bridge back a year ago. So we kind of need to know if there's any capital requests by November of each year in order to make that possible. In order to in our capital budget.
I mean, the simple answer is we do a capital budget outside of the operating budget, and then those numbers get plugged in for each year.
Dusty, I know we had talked about this briefly in some of our formation meetings, that, you know, kind of capital projects would have to be, at least from the Trail Authority's perspective, these first few years.
Are you still there, Dan?
We lost Dan.
Lost
Yeah.
Dan, your voice. At least in these first few years is what we last heard.
He's not
Oh.
muted, but his sound is.
The sound is bad. Huh. Maybe you go out of the meeting and come back in, Dan, reset it.
That worked well. He's gone now. What do we want to decide?
Yeah, how'd you do that?
Hang on, he's back.
Right there, press all theta and
No, I'm fine. Can you change the camera setting? All right. No. What? That's fine. All right, is he back? Dan, you're still quiet, man. Oh, no.
He's
Technical
back,
difficulty.
but no sound.
I think you could call in.
You could
Yes.
do that.
You could call it.
Dan, I'll email you the call-in information.
And Dusty?
Yes.
This is Marty.
Yes.
I have a meeting at 10 o'clock that I
Uh-huh.
need to do some stuff for, so I'll drop off probably about 9:30. I just wanted to let you know that.
That's fine. Thank you. Dan, appreciate you coming to the meeting. Dan, you might want to look at a capital expenditure for a new computer at City Hall too.
I don't know whether Dan can hear us or not, but I only have one comment about the agenda. We need to somehow shrink City of Tecumseh's logo. Kind of overshadows the rest of us.
Important topic.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, there you
joined.
are.
Does that
Good.
work?
Yes, it does.
All right, sorry about that. So just real quick, I'm sorry what I missed, but long story short, I know we had discussed earlier that the Trail Authority would have to address kind of capital items on an individual basis that our kind of our base budget was not really designed to do that. So I guess that would be my thought is obviously the money we're contributing this first few years would go for maintenance. And then obviously if there were extra funds, we could allocate them to capital projects.
And Greg, you're comfortable with that as that was a capital approved expenditure that would fall in your budget for that bridge at Gady, right?
Right.
Excellent.
Perfect. The
All
only thing,
right.
Dan, the only thing you missed was the fact that we need to shrink your logo. It kind of overshadows everybody else on the agenda page.
Hey, when you make the agenda, you know.
Let's see that. Look at that size.
It kind of dominates the.
Yeah, he's just teasing. All right, so I guess the question is, and what I'd hope and envisioned is that the right people from Adrian and the townships and city of Tecumseh would get together and talk about those maintenance issues specifically and ask, what can Raisin Township do for where they're at and that they're closer to? What can Adrian Township do that they're closer to with some of their equipment? And same with Tecumseh, and to come up with a formal plan that says, you know, this is what we're all willing to do together and get some efficiencies or some synergies going with that type of structure. So I don't know if we should, you know, have Matt and who to get together to start talking about that, but I would like to see us work towards that end if that's possible.
Yeah, I think ideally there would be a working group of Matts in the similar communities that get together to figure out the most expedient way to accomplish these tasks, you know, from time to time.
Suggestion real quick. Obviously the two cities have a little bit more capability in terms of DPW, you know, equipment and staff. I mean, I guess I would suggest at minimum, you know, there'd be representation from the two cities on that committee, if that's what we're calling it.
I think we should.
I think it would be a committee. Dale and Jim, do you have anybody that you expect to fill that role?
You're looking at him.
Yeah, for us, not at this time, but I agree with Dan. I guess it probably should be a meeting of everyone just to see, obviously, equipment, resources, and maybe iron that out a little bit better.
So what we'll do then is we'll try to organize a maintenance committee, we'll call it. Does that sound good? The maintenance committee. And then Matt will get you with Dan and his people, and we'll invite everybody to that. And then the focus will be strictly on that to make sure we can get moving on that.
Dusty,
Yes.
has the city established a maintenance schedule out 3 to 5 years? For instance, as I walk the trail, I notice there's some cracks that need to be filled, but then I also notice that there's some spots that probably really need to be resurfaced. I mean, are these things that the city's already done, or is that something that this committee would be doing?
So Matt, do you have a 3 to 5 year plan, or just this upcoming year, or where are you at?
Yeah, there was a 3 to 5 plan. It's kind of been put on the background. We've kind of just been playing it a year late. We do have money set aside this year actually to crack seal and seal a portion of the trail. So we've been keeping an eye on it. That's right there is the old plan that hasn't been updated in some time now. But if we could maybe bring something along that back, that maintenance committee can as a template, and we can just keep a plan moving forward.
So I guess I'm sure they do. They have the plan, but I think we're now going to advance the ball, I guess. And the question would be here's the picture of the whole trail. This is what the conditions are. We should probably have some sort of grading of what we think it's at, and then sort of formulate a plan outward of continued maintenance, 3 to 5. And that'd be charged to that committee to come back and report to the authority. Does that sound good?
Yep,
Yep.
I agree with that.
Excellent. All right, I will make sure that there's a due to pull out to try to get everybody on the right page on that meeting.
Dustin, maybe that'd be an agenda item for our next meeting, which is what, 2 months out?
Yes,
To kind of adopt the maintenance budget along with our, I'm assuming, obviously the next item is our overall budget.
right. So I will make that an agenda item. So hopefully we can get some good work done in the next 2 months on that. But going into that budget discussion, we know our budget cash flows are $100,000 a year based on the contributions that are coming in from the various Kiwanis and the townships and city of Tecumseh and Adrian. So what more do we want to do as far as adopting a budget? Are there other things that you want to have part of that budget at this time until we walk through that maintenance discussion?
Well, I know, Dusty, one of the couple things you and I discussed briefly is there may be some startup costs to our fundraising effort for the Tecumseh Connection that possibly the Trail Authority might be willing to help with. For example, we're doing brochures and video that could be obviously used for other purposes within the Trail Authority.
Yeah, and then we discuss, let me go back and talk about Tecumseh Connection because it has a lot to do with this, would be that. And I don't know, I'm not saying that the Trail Authority should be a part of that funding because it is up to us. And we had a big meeting yesterday. Marty was a part of it. Kim was very direct with us. Just kidding. Anyway, we have about 60 days to raise funds. It's 60 days to raise funds to make the Tecumseh Connection work. And we have to do a significant amount of fundraising to get that done, so that they're comfortable at that time to setting out bids and the like. The drawings are done. We have a good detail on that, as most of you know already. So as we move into this, we've got a committee together: Marcy Brown, Janice Montalvo, Dan, and Jennifer. I forget her last name.
Actually, Jessica.
Jessica.
Yes.
I was thinking there was one more. Anyway, we got together, we wrote down names, we wrote down foundations, endowments, everybody took a name, and we have quite a list of people we're targeting and organizations we're targeting. I think we came up with like $800,000 worth to ask, and then there's even more than that as we spread out and try to get this out to the public. There'll be 2 patronicity things going off, each $50,000 matches through the MEDC. Those will be at the end of us doing this initial, what we call a quiet phase of going out talking to the various organizations. Like we said, we already talked to Joe Williams at the foundation, and some other ideas are coming about. But I was going to go either to Kiwanis or we were going to go somewhere because we need to get some money together to really get our brochures together that talk about the various giving levels. And we have some work being done by Arconic, who's doing some drone work to do to fly over to show what it's going to look like, so that we put that video on the patronicity site. So I'm not saying that we're all really maintenance at this point. We talked about maintenance, but I don't know if we move on or if this authority moves into becoming a part of that funding. So I wanted to open that up for discussion.
And
What,
I guess
what kind of money are you looking for brochures, and that kind of information?
so. For example, in Artonics, they do website development things. Or Tecumseh company, and they do the drone footage examples, those types of things. And we've discussed with them about a $2,000 budget to do the video for the patronicity campaign. The brochures, we've gotten some in-kind service from County National Bank to develop the artwork, but obviously then we're gonna have to print it and do so. So I'm assuming that could be potentially another couple $1,000s. We haven't gotten print, quotes yet. So I guess in my mind, Dusty, and correct me if I'm wrong, a kind of $4,000 to $5,000 kind of startup cost there.
What's your thoughts, Jim? Do you think we can take that to Kiwanis and instead of having the authority pay for it, or do you think this appropriate expenditure of the authority?
Where I would go, again, I like participation from as many as possible, but I would approach it from $2,500 ask from Kiwanis and then $2,500 ask from this group. I would have no problem with that.
Would that be reasonable for you, Dale? Or do you want to?
I guess when we put this together, I guess that's what we defined when we said $100,000 budget. Is that strictly just for the maintenance? Or are we going to start eating into it with these little side projects? I mean, it has to be done. So I guess that's just a question for clarity.
Yeah, and that's where I'm torn too, because I don't want to get a gray area of maintenance and then all of a sudden we start wandering a little bit. I would like to have the money as seed money to make it easier, but I'm almost, it's tough. I don't want to get too gray. The other thing is the applicant for this is the county, and the county, and we all in the municipality signed up on that application as well. Any checks that are received will be sent to the Runaway County Treasurer that are received as donations to manage that money accordingly until we get to our goals. So when I think about that entire endeavor, Dan, I think about raising the seed money too right off the bat. And so if I'm not saying we have to act upon this, but I want to make sure that we're clear. And that's probably not clear, but.
And that's why I think we would bring back to our next meeting a formal budget, and obviously this is just discussion at this point as to, we've got $80,000 there, give or take, of maintenance activities identified potentially. So that leaves us, roughly $20,000 to work with for other expenses. And obviously it's up to the board as to what other expenses they want to entertain.
Oh, the other thing too is this, in Adrian Township, I don't have the 12.5 budgeted for this year. I've got it budgeted for next year. So you may not receive the check until January. Can these expenses,
I just realized something. Do you remember the money that we all put together? And it's held at Kiwanis right now that we did for Bob and the attorneys and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have 7,500 there, Dan. I should have thought of that. There's still 7,500 there. We can use that as the seed money if everybody agrees.
I would support that.
That was outside the 12.5 commitments and outside the $50,000 commitment from the city.
Got it.
Right.
2907 Tipton Highway, you can send our check back.
So that was money that was designated for that type of work anyway. I should have remembered that, but it just came to mind because when we were going through the board meeting at Kiwanis, Joe Williams says we still have that 7,500, but it's going to end up at the city by next month or so. So I'll have Joe issue that over to the city if that's okay, Greg. We'll open that account, and then we'll make requests when we need to build these brochures if there's no objection.
I think it solves our problem.
I think that's a good solution.
Yeah.
All right. I wish I'd have remembered that to begin with. We wouldn't waste of time. All right. So the fundraising does begin. And I will say this is one of those things that we really need to be in front of in the press. We really need to be a group that takes, and I'm sure Marty's fine with it too, is that we get a lot of credit as an authority that helps with this fundraising effort and gets out to all of our friends and contacts. We'll load everybody up with brochures and information about various levels. I know we had 4 or 5 people in a room coming up with names, but I'm sure you guys know some names and organizations as well. It is a heavy lift. Yesterday when we got done with our meeting and Dale, I know you weren't there, and Jim, you weren't there, but we got our first estimates come in from Manick and Smith, Todd Brown, and it was right at $900,000. After further discussion, it moved up to about $950,000 because of oversight and some other things that were not included. And there was some discussion back and forth. There is going to be some efforts to try to lower that number if possible. He did say in there that he had 5 to 10% contingencies in each of his unit values that he was using to try to for unforeseen. So it is a little bit amplified of a number, but it is the right kind of thing to say. So what that takes us to is that we have $300,000 coming from DNR, and we have the other $100,000 match. That's $400,000 covered. So if we're up at 900, you can see that the ask is bigger than we thought. We thought it was going to be around 400. It may be around 550 from the public. is what I'm seeing. So with that said, we got a heavy lift, and I just need all your help, and we're going to be pushing hard.
Yeah, so they're basically talking with the county yesterday, Dusty, just to confirm that, obviously we're looking for early January, having kind of a check-in with them on, what our progress is with the initial asking, and, because at that point, the plan is in mid January, potentially go out to bid for requesting prices from contractors. So that would be kind of the next step.
And I figure if we could get to about 350, 400 by that time, somewhere, they're going to be more comfortable. Right. Because then we'd have the two patronicities going off, and then, some continued efforts. And then there's another check-in point, right, Dan?
Right. So then obviously, once the bids come in, prior to awarding the contract, and that would probably be late February, early March. Early March, I think, is what we talked about when the commission would potentially meet to decide whether or not to award a contract.
Dusty, do multi-year pledges count?
They could, yes. We're going to develop that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right. Any discussion or questions on the Tecumseh connection? Awesome. All right, Frank, thank you so much for clearing your schedule this morning. I want to introduce Frank Nagel, and he'll tell you who he is, and he's going to talk a little bit about the MDHHS 4x4 State Physical Activity Grant. Frank.
Yeah, thank you everybody for the opportunity to be able to join the meeting today to share some more details about the MDHHS 4x4 grant. So this is a state grant that is awarded to the Lenawee County Health Department, and we're flowing this project through the Lenawee Health Network just because of some of MDHHS's interest in aligning non-motorized physical activity or activity-friendly transportation to community resources to address communities' health needs. And so this funding has been awarded to Lenawee over the last couple of years, and really with the progress made in the formation of the Trail Authority, got talking with Dusty and really just want to make sure that these funds are allocated appropriately with projects that align with the county's vision and with the Trail Authority's vision of expanding and improving that non-motorized trails and the footprint in Lenawee County. And so overall, the future of this grant funding is really dependent on the governor's plan and budget for the state nutrition and physical activity area. But what we know now is, or what we do know is that we have another cycle of funding that started September 1st and has basically a budgeted line item of about $20,000 for funds allocated for at-grade crossings, striping, signage, other type of enhancements to improve safety and awareness for motorists and also trail users to really see that the community, one, has more awareness of that availability of those non-motorized trails, and two, that they utilize those. And so what we really just want to make sure is myself and Martha Hall have been communicating with Matt and with Greg more recently, and just trying to figure out how do we gain that consensus when a request comes in to utilize grant funds towards a particular initiative, and just knowing for certain that we have that consensus with the many parties or many stakeholders that have interest or are currently working in non-motorized transportation. And so I do want to point out too, City of Adrian was very gracious in supporting this initiative and contributing a match with budgeted dollars that they have towards non-motorized initiatives. And overall, this is allowing us to really look at what is some of the low-hanging fruit, where could we utilize signage, striping, or other things that could maybe help the community to be physically active during this time on our parks and trails. And also with the health department and through the health network, we're looking to see how our communities bring awareness to being safe on the trails with respect to coronavirus and COVID-19. So there have been some community coalitions across the state that have done some work with that too. And so again, really just appreciate the opportunity to bring this to the Trail Authority, because it seems like there's opportunity to maybe align some of the grant initiatives with what's happening here, and to know that the Trail Authority is in support of projects and grant allocations of resources to any of those projects, because we don't want to duplicate. We want to make sure that we align efforts, because ultimately that'll help us to scale that impact and make the most progress as possible. So we want to be a contributing, supporting arm to creating that synergy in the community. And I'm open to any questions or any feedback about how we can do that effectively. And really, ultimately, from what we've primarily discussed, is it seems like there's opportunity to bring those requests here, make sure that consensus exists, and to allocate funds accordingly.
So what I would envision that we would do as a group, and again, probably it takes, the committee of maintenance, maybe even others that are involved in it. We're going to come up on our Adrian area non-motorized transportation plan that the city and the Kiwanis Club of Adrian sponsored and had done by Bob Ford. And there were a number of items inside that non-motorized transportation plan that were low-hanging fruit, if you will, whether it be striping across streets, to signage, to mile markers, to loops, to whatever we think was going to be an improvement. Frank, those are all acceptable items. I see you said there's ag grade crossings, and, those types of things. Safety is a big thing.
Yes, some of the unallowable or like the capital costs or capital projects in construction. Those are two primary things. But in the past, again, signage striping, there's been some trailhead signage that's been able to go in. And then even in the last cycle, there were a couple bicycle repair stations. So the thing that I encourage is, if there isn't a line item specifically budgeted within the grant, but there's a need in the community and we feel like it could be allowable, I can go to the funder and request a revision to utilize those funds in that fashion in support of our county's plans. Because ultimately we want the grant to support our community's initiatives and not to feel like we're implementing community initiatives in response to what a grant allows. So we can go to bat for some of those requests also.
I know, Jim, you had an idea about the Gary Gray stretching machines and things that are out there on the trail, and that would be an item that might work, correct?
I would love to see us put one at the Ben Oak, right? I mean, I was out there yesterday and there's a bike repair stand out there. And I think it would be a great addition to have that stretching apparatus, I guess would be the appropriate name for it. Right in there, because you see a lot of people, that do more than just walk. They stretch and do that, all that other stuff. But I would be more than happy to look into that if the authority so desires.
So I guess the question comes down to is, where do we start the prioritization of a grant like this? We know we can utilize the grant. It's just a matter of prioritizing what we use it for. So go ahead.
One thing I would maybe recommend, Dusty, because it's somewhat confusing. I walk by time, not by distance. And I noticed yesterday as I walked north from the Ben Oak area that the mile markers are, I don't know where they start, where they end, whether it'd be something that we could look into to maybe start the mile marker at 0 at South Main and then end at Calzorn Park. I don't know. It's just because it's confusing when you walk by and it says mile marker 3 and well, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying?
Dan, are you muted this time? It's just mute, not your computer.
Yeah, so it sounds like we might need some mapping too at certain trailheads.
Yeah.
So way back when Mark Gash was around, we have these kiosks that you see throughout the trail. There's 11 of them to be exact, and they have a map and it says you are here kind of map, and tells a little history of Kiwanis. Those are pretty old now. They're getting a little older now. And I know that I'm working with the hospital right now because Kiwanis made a gift to their 2.5 mile trail that they have on campus, which is beautiful. And they're working with me on signage for Kiwanis and the like. And I want to get some uniformity here because, if we want to go back and adjust what those information kiosks look like, or what those mile markers mean, and do something sort of comprehensive like that. I would love it to all be uniform.
Right. The only one problem with the trail at the hospital, there's snakes out there.
Yeah.
I don't like
Jimmy
snakes.
fell off his bike. He was so scared.
No, I was walking.
I just made that up, Jim.
Right.
This is maybe a question for Frank, but I mean, could we spend some money with Bob or another group on coming up with a signage plan and a more uniform, guide as to what the sign should look like?
I know the grant funding in the past has supported like engineering plans or development plans similar to that. And so it's not specifically outlined in our work plan or in the budget to allocate the funds that way, but if determined as a need, that's something that has been supported in the past, and I could request an amendment to get that included.
Great, because I think to Dusty's point, and what we see at many other trails, regional trails and things like that, is they do have a uniform look to them.
I think that's a good focus area too. Now, we also talked about, crossings and the like, and, as we learned over time, if you take a crossing and you make it real bright orange and you give it all kinds of lights and signage and everything, it makes the biker feel too assured and secure to cross that. And so that becomes an unsafe situation. So there's a balance between creating safety in a crossing. And we worked on that at Kiwanis. We were starting to think about that crossing at 52 up there and a few others that, do we try to create some safety there and the like. So what I want to do before we make decisions, though, is probably have an analysis done, Dan, like you're suggesting, about if you look at our non-motorized transportation plan, there are some specifics to that. I just don't know if it says at this part of the trail from Adrian to Raisin Township, this is what we're going to have signage look like, or whatever the case may be.
Dusty, I was going to suggest that it might not be, it might be money well spent if we could get Frank and a couple of us from the authority to sit down or Zoom with Bob Ford and get his ideas on what he feels, because I'm sure he's very familiar with this activity grant and and he's pretty familiar with our trail now. So he might be able to suggest a game plan for us to expend the money.
Frank, would you be willing? Go ahead, Dan.
No, so the other thing, obviously, once the Tecumseh connection is completed, we have not allocated, we're not really designed a lot of signage into that to date. So we'll probably need some for next year. We may need some funding for signage there, but it would be nice to have a clear plan in place and design guidelines.
Right. Yep. And I think it'd be nice to get, if we do decide to go spend a little time with Bob Ford, we do that between now and our January meeting, and then that would be a point of discussion in January.
And again, if we treat that 7,500 well, Dan, we could use some for the marketing of Tecumseh Connection, but we might be able to still squeeze some Bob Ford dollars in there too.
Dusty, how much do we have? How much do we have left in that gift that was given to Kiwanis for the trail? Do you know?
No, we took it out when we took the East Side Connection.
So that's gone?
It's gone.
Okay. Yeah.
No, that gives us a little room, but if Frank can get that adopted or amended so that we could get it approved for an analysis, that would work too. So Frank, do you mind having a short call with Mr. Ford and I and maybe Jim to discuss that?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. And then those details will help me to make that formal amendment request to MDHHS.
Excellent. All right.
Good.
Any other discussion on that?
Just thank you again. And with the grants, I think the nice thing is if the state budgets those funds, it's almost like we have our foot in the door with this project officer. I worked as a project coordinator on a grant with this specific project officer in 2015. And we've just basically reapplied for this. It's been a very simple process, but If budgeted in the state dollars, we can keep our foot in the door to keep working on some of the low hanging fruit that stands out there. So they did say next year's uncertain, but again, we have our foot in the door.
Excellent. So this cycle, by the way, just Frank, this cycle, this 20,000, does that end at the end of this year and then it has to be restarted next year?
Thank you for bringing that up. So it started September 1, and the cycle will go through
Okay.
August. And so that's, basically
That's your year.
we target that August period to have the funds expended. And then I believe the final reporting completed in September, if I recall correctly. But yeah, we're on more of a fiscal calendar with the
Excellent.
state.
So basically, if the Tecumseh connection's completed next year, we could actually spend money on signage up till August and then still get signage for the Tecumseh connection done next year in the 21-22 budget. That's what you're saying, right? If we're approved.
And MDHHS has allowed us in the past to purchase signage to be installed, in that next year or whatever it is too. So
Okay,
we do have some of that flexibility.
okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Any other discussion? Frank, thank you so much for attending today. We really appreciate it and we're looking forward to working with you.
Absolutely. Likewise. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Frank.
All right. Onward. So each of you hopefully got the Dropbox super file of our Adrian area non-motorized transportation plan. I thought it would be a good action item for us to adopt it formally as a trail authority. Just to give you a little background about what I foresee the future looking like on that is that we have it's Region 2, I believe it is, who actually, the county actually adopts their non-motorized plan. We have a non-motorized plan in our authority. So if we adopt it and then it follows up through the county and finds its way to Region 2 and then they adopt it and then it finds its way to the state overall plan, this is an important thing for us to have to make sure that we're available for TAP funding and a number of other funding areas at the state level. So if anybody has any discussion, I'd entertain a motion for the authority to adopt the Adrian area non-motorized transportation plan.
This is Jim and I so move.
Dan, I would support.
If there's been a motion and acceptance, is there any further discussion? Roll call, please, Robin.
Member Steele,
Yes.
member Elliott,
Yes.
member Kane,
Yes.
member Swallow,
Yes.
member Witt.
Yes.
The motion to adopt the Adrian area non-motorized transportation plan is approved by unanimous vote.
All right, the next thing on our item is to set our bi-monthly meetings. We started in November as the Articles of Incorporation did say, so our next meeting would be in January. So I don't know what the best date we should work with. Should we stay on this second Tuesday, is it?
I think that would be January 12th if
Yeah.
we do.
Yep.
So we just stay on the second Tuesday at 9 a.m. So January,
And I'm not an early person, but does it make more sense to meet at 8 rather than 9? Just looking at your guys' schedule, so. 9's fine, but 8
My
would,
only, my only potential conflict is we have our regular Tecumseh Kiwanis meetings Tuesdays at 7, so we're just wrapping up at 8. It's a little tight, but
yeah, 9 o'clock's fine then. Yeah, I don't have a problem with
it
that.
is. And then if we want employees and stuff, 9 o'clock lines up too. If we're having people,
Okay.
specialists,
Yeah.
that lines up, they can be at work at that time.
Okay.
So this is an action item. So from there forward, would we call it this, the second Tuesday of every other month, starting with January, 9 a.m.?
Works for me.
Is that a motion, Jim Kane?
Yes.
There's a motion by Jim.
Dan, I would support that motion.
Dan has supported it. All right. Any further discussion? Roll call, Robin.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
member Kane,
Yes.
member Swallow,
Yes.
member Witt,
Yes.
member Steele.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to set bi-monthly, to set the meetings for the second Tuesday, is it bi-monthly?
It is.
The second Tuesday bi-monthly, starting in January, is approved by unanimous vote.
Excellent.
Kind of related to Dusty, I don't know, we talked about having a maintenance committee meeting.
Yes,
So I don't want to do that. We want to do that in December sometime. Obviously,
I would agree with that. December would be fine. If it's okay with Matt and
I think
Greg.
Matt had to leave, unfortunately. I don't know.
No, I see.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
What days are good for you, Matt? Should I send out a Google poll to everybody? And it really would be City of Adrian, City of Tecumseh, and Dale and Jim. You guys would have to be there for that too. But here's where we get into the quorum Open Meetings Act about having more than 3 of us in a meeting. We can't have 3 of us in a meeting. We can only have 2 of us in a meeting.
Oh, we can. We just have to post it as a public meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Right.
I don't see an issue with posting it.
Just post it as a maintenance committee of the Trail Authority.
Right, yeah. I don't have an issue with that.
All right.
Be good.
I will work with Robert and Michelle and we'll get that figured out.
Okay,
Just a thought, if second Tuesdays do work, I don't know, December 8th would be the second Tuesday.
Does December 8th, by any chance, Matt, work on your calendar? 9 a.m.? Dale, Jim?
Sure.
just a second, I'm looking. Oh, I think I gotta get my hair cut at 9:15 on the 8th. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, if you could get that go to 8:45, you get it done in no
It only
time.
takes 5 minutes, so.
That's not a long thing to happen. You could probably step out of the room. All right. Let's see, are there any other public comments now at this time?
Hey, Dusty,
Yes,
I just want to, this is Dale, I just want to address one thing, maybe for the group to consider. Since this trail authority is moving ahead and fantastic things, but fire and rescue issue, how we're going to deal with that, the equipment we need. I know I've talked with our fire chief, Jim Hanna. We've been put together a couple of quotes for a UTV, for example, to be able to access the trail for those issues. It may be something we want to consider. So just a thought I wanted to throw out to the group.
And the short term, just as an aside, City of Tecumseh did buy a side-by-side
Okay.
because we had a bad experience with that river rescue. I think that was actually in Raisin Township, but anyway, neither here nor there. So I mean that could be called upon, so to speak, as a mutual aid type thing in the interim.
Okay.
I think it warrants further discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so a lot of that will happen in the maintenance meeting as well. Discussion about who has what as far as capabilities and capacity and those responsibilities and the like. Or should we move that to a different committee?
No, that could work. I mean, it's tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All right, that'll be dealt with in December, on the December 9th meeting. The maintenance will be at least discussed it anyway.
December 8th,
8th, thank you,
9 o'clock, correct?
9 a.m.
Obviously, I'm open to other times with it. If people put it on their calendar as a kind of recurring thing that works sometimes.
Yep. 9 to 10, okay.
All right, one thing I did not have on the agenda, so I should have approved it, but we forgot, and I don't know, I thought I saw it before, but maybe I just can't read. But we have to approve our alternates today too. Does everybody have a chance to ask for an alternate and are ready to present one?
No,
You're not?
No.
No, nobody's, so make that a January item?
That's fine. Yeah, I already, Sarah, I don't know if she's still on. I had a limited screen
Yes.
here, but that will likely be the City of Tecumseh's alternate.
And the Kiwanis board has approved Travis Havens, who's the director of hospice and is a very active member with Kiwanis as my alternate. So you haven't had a chance to talk to Steve? Was it Steve? Jim?
Yeah, I haven't, I'm sure he'll say yes, but I don't want to have him approved without me asking him, so.
Yeah. Why don't we do that all together then at the January meeting? I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Do that in January. And then, is it Tom Hawkins? Is that right? I have the name right.
Yep.
Yeah. And so he will actually be in Dale's seat in January. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'll be moving to a different seat.
Will you be hopefully the alternate, correct? And here at our meetings all the time?
Well, I'd like to be.
Yes, awesome.
That'll be a discussion and you guys can do the arm twisting. So.
Can't we approve you as the alternate today?
Well, I don't know. In the last election, I got write-in votes all over the place. So I don't know. Supervisor, treasurer, or whatever. I guess I'll talk to the guy. So.
Well, we definitely want the treasurer as part of the committee because you got to hold all the money.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, whatever you guys want, I'm willing to do it if that's what the choice is of Tom and everybody else. So.
Well, Dale, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the work you've done with us on all this. It's been
That's right.
Great work, amazing work.
It's fun. I hope to continue. That'd be great. You guys are doing good. And this is a great program moving forward.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. All right, any other items for this body today? Any other public comment?
The only thing I'd say, we keep looking at this M52 and Curtis Crossing, and did get some estimates for getting the drawings together because MDOT needs that information before they'll even consider the project. So Frank suggested that we run that by this committee. It's really no skin off my nose if you decide not to do it, but we do have, I think it's probably one of the more useful connections to the trail because you go to the ISD and JC there, but it is not a easy place to cross over. So I don't know if they all have this information.
They do. There was disseminated, yeah.
Okay,
we just
so
didn't.
to do they call it a 40% drawing according to Matt. Would be $1,100. That's so that they have some idea of what the intersection looks like. And then if we go ahead with the project, it'd be another $1,800 to complete the work. And the estimated cost for that crossing, considering you'd have kind of launch pads on both sides, would be about another $7,000. So it'd be about a $10,000 crossing all told.
Is right across 52 from ISD all the way to Plain Wave?
Yeah, Plain Wave, yeah, it's be crossing right there. I think it'd be a very useful intersection, and I don't know whether if you build it, they'll come. I have no idea, but if I were wanting to get off the trail and go over to JC, it is kind of a tricky crossing. So. And they may also recommend some slow down stuff too. That'd be all. That's up to MDOT to study. So for your consideration.
And this was correct me if I'm wrong, striping and signage predominantly.
Was it an island that was out in the middle of the turn lane?
No,
Okay.
no,
just the signage.
No, I'm sure there'd be some crossing signage for sure.
So one of the things, if you get
by the fact that there's no sidewalk on that side of the road, you're sending people across the road. There's really nowhere to go.
Well, good bikers know how to create a trail, Greg.
Well, maybe we should create that trail first.
Well, one of the things that I'm discussing and talking to is really coming out of Island Park, another idea. There's a number of them when we get into our non-motorized plan. But if you remember what Mike Smith said when we were all listening to him and that information time that he gave us, one of the things that he had received from Chris Miller at the time was the drawings on the big bridge that was going to go across in basically the same spot. And Mike said, I'm not going to have a bridge to nowhere. And he said that quite often. But one of the things he did say to us all that day was, it takes about $50,000 to eliminate all the different options of crossing 52 before you can land on saying this is our only way. And so my fear is that process hasn't taken place to say, where is the absolute best place to cross 52?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And what I'd suggest is you spend $1,100, get the drawing and get it to them and get their feedback. There is no great place to cross there. So you may as well start with Curtis. And again, that's just my opinion. If it doesn't go anywhere, it's okay by me. So, but I did want to throw that out for your consideration.
I guess to Greg's point, I'd prefer to meet with ISD and maybe Planewave or whoever the property owners are there to see, if there's a potential for sidewalk or where they would connect before we, propose a location per se.
Yeah, I'm sure that if you put landing pads on both sides, sooner or later, the sidewalk will show up.
All right. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, and then we will move forward with our December 8th meeting of the Maintenance Committee. Then we will be back on January 12th of 2021 for our 2021 kickoff meeting. And is there any other discussion for this body before we adjourn? All right, I never know if there's a motion for adjournment for all the years I've been doing the Robert's Rules of Order.
No need.
I didn't think so. All right, great seeing all of you. Thank you all for your participation, and I will see all of you very soon.
Thank you, Dusty.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.